Friends, here I want to improve my presentation skill and I want to do myself better in presenting a topic. In this regard, I need your suggestions. As I am a teacher, the art of presenting a topic with narration and storytelling is very essential to me to attract the students in my day-to-day classroom activity. You know, during the worst pandemic time, there are no direct classes. Only online classes are going on for months together. By doing these videos, I want to keep my knife sharp. Otherwise, there might be a chance of rusting it or dusting it. And it leads finally to a dustbin. Presenting something in our mother tongue is not a difficult task, I think. But presenting the same in the other tongue is somewhat difficult to do. It needs some extra effort. We have to forget our mother tongue during the time of our presentation in the other tongue. Now here I am going to present you one or two events from the childhood of Mahatma Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, how melodious and rhythmic the name it is. The name which occupied the every inch of the area of our country. The great man who created the vibration that collapsed the British monarchy in our country. The man who practiced truth and non-violence as the experiments in his life. This is the topic which I selected. Belongs to the olden days when India was struggling with poverty, illiteracy and hunger. The upcoming generations of our children may not understand this, but it is our duty to make our children understand India before the independence. The great personality, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, was born on 2nd October 1869 in a town called Porbandar in Gujarat. He belonged to a Vaishnavite Baniya caste. He was the fourth youngest son to his parents. His father Kaba Gandhi and mother Putlibai. As you know, his father Kaba Gandhi had 4 marriages earlier, having lost his wife each time by death. He had 2 daughters by his first and second marriages. Putlibai was the last wife to him and she gave birth to a daughter and 3 sons. And Gandhi was the youngest among them. Gandhi spent his childhood life at Porbandar in his ancestral home with his parents, elder sister and 2 elder brothers. There he completed his primary and high school education. His childhood experiences with his family members and school life experiences with his friends and teachers molded his character in his later life. In school, he was a boy of shy nature, a boy not easily mixed up with other students. English was the medium of the language in his school. When he was in 6th class, he had to select one optional language out of 2 languages, the Sanskrit or the Persian. However, Gandhi selected Sanskrit as the optional language then. There was a sort of rivalry was going on between the Sanskrit and the Persian teachers in the school. The boys used to talk that Persian was an easy subject and the Persian teachers are liberal and friendly. But the Sanskrit was a hard subject and the Sanskrit teachers were hard-hearted. Because of these talkings, Gandhi wanted to take Persian as the optional language in school. But the Sanskrit teachers insisted him to take the Sanskrit as the optional language. Among the other subjects, Gandhi likes geometry very much because he thinks it is a very interesting subject which requires pure and simple use of reasoning. He thinks that the Sanskrit is a hard subject because everything in it has to be learnt in by heart method. Whereas in geometry, there is nothing to be memorized. But in Sanskrit, everything is to be memorized. His was a bad handwriting. In his later life, he thought that a good handwriting was a necessary part of education. He was ashamed of himself because of his bad handwriting. He thought that the bad handwriting should be regarded as a sign of imperfection in education. When he was studying his high school education, a bitter, sad, and painful incident took place in his life. That is, early marriage or a child marriage took place in his life. The child marriages were customary and common in those days. When he was 13 years old, without his consent, his parents conducted his marriage. He was married Kasturi Bai, an illiterate girl of the same age. Though Kasturi Bai was not educated, she was a simple and brave girl with independent nature. In those days, there were two types of child marriage practices were prevalent in Gujarat and in other parts of our country. One is the pure marriage and the other is the betrothal. These were the agreements between the parents and the children have no concern with it. Betrothal is a preliminary promise on the part of the parents of the boy. In case of the death of the boy, entails no widowhood on the part of the girl. But in pure marriage, the girl becomes a widow after the death of the boy. She was not supposed to remarry again. Gandhiji's was a pure marriage, not a betrothal. However, Gandhi opposed child marriages in his later life. Because Kasturi Bai was an illiterate girl, Gandhi was very anxious to teach her, but lustful love left him no time to teach her. As it was a child marriage, Kasturi Bai's parents were not allowed to stay together for a long time at her husband's home. 6 months was the longest continuous period they both spent together. In those days, parents do not allow young couple to stay together for a long time. The child wife spends more than half of her time at her father's home. AGI. Gandhi went to England. This was a long spell of separation of wife and husband. Even after his return from England, they hardly stayed together for 6 months. He had a very passion in carnal pleasures. After that, he went to South Africa. Here I would like to narrate you 2 interesting incidents that happened when he was studying high school education. The bad company of his friends motivated him to eat meat. And the same friends motivates him and takes him to a brothel house. How was he motivated to eat meat? What happened to him after eating meat? And what was his experience at the brothel house? With your humble permission, here I would like to continue a few minutes, please. Mohandas Karamchand was a coward boy. He used to haunted by the fear of ghosts, thieves, and snakes. He did not stir out of the door at night. Darkness was a terror to him. Some of his friends tried to reform him. They motivated him to eat meat. They gave various reasons and explanations in support of eating meat. Gandhi belongs to an orthodox Vaishya Hindu family. Meat eating was strictly prohibited in his caste. They would regularly visit Haveli, the Vishnu temple. Motivating him to eat meat, his friends said, "We Indians are weak people because we do not eat meat. So the English is able to rule over us because they are meat eaters." His friends said that they are very strong because they are eating meat. Gandhi is a tender and delicate boy because he is not eating meat. They said that meat eaters do not have tumors or diseases. Even sometimes, if they happen any, they will be healed quickly. Meat eaters are physically strong and daring. They could run long distances with extraordinary fast. They tried to convince Gandhi for a long time. They even tried to convince him by telling local Gujarati poems. Behold the mighty Englishman. He rules Indians small. because being a meat eater, he is 5 cubits tall. All these explanations over a period of time had due effect on him. He was beaten. It began to grow on him that meat eating was good, that it would make him strong and daring. And if whole country took to meat eating, the English would be overcome easily. A day was fixed for the beginning of the experiment. It has to be conducted in a secret place. If his parents know his meat eating, they were shocked to death. The day came. They went to a lonely spot by the river. There he saw the cooked meat for the first time in his life. There was a baker's bread also. That was goat meat. It was as tough as a leather. He chewed one piece and swallowed it. Then he had sick and had to leave off eating. Afterwards, he had very bad nights. A horrible nightmare haunted him. Every time he dropped off to sleep, it would seem as though a live goat was beating inside him. He says, though, if it is essential to eat meat and also essential to take up food reform in the country, yet deceiving and lying to one's dharma or caste is worse. He never goes back to eat meat again. His parents never knew that his son had become a meat eater. Again, the same company of his friends led him to a faithlessness to his wife, but he was saved by the mercy of God. One of his friends once took him to a brothel house. He sent him in with necessary instructions what to do and how to start. It was all pre-arranged. The money had already been paid to the prostitute. He went inside, but he did not do anything. God, in his infinite mercy, protected him from doing sin. He was almost struck blind and dumb in that den of shame. He sat near the woman on her bed, but he was tongue-tied. She naturally lost her patience, showed him the door, insulting and abusing him. He then felt that his manhood was insulted and injured. Without doing anything to that woman, he left the room. From strictly ethical point of view, all these occasions must be regarded as moral lapses. But from the ordinary point of view, a man who is saved from physically committing sin is regarded as saved. He was saved only in this sin. A man, as soon as he gets back his consciousness of right, is thankful to the divine mercy for the escape. You know how far a man is free and how far a creature of circumstances, how far a free will comes into play and where fate enters on the scene. All this is a mystery and remains mystery. He was a devoted and jealous husband to his wife. His eyes were actually opened then. He was 16 years old. His father was bedridden, suffering with fistula. Suffering with fistula, he was confined to bed. His bed was a plain wooden plank. Gandhi and his mother Putli Bai were the principal attendants of the patient. If he was a painter, he could have drawn a picture of the whole scene of that day. Only he who has experienced such love in his father can know what it is. Only he who is smitten with the arrows of love of his father knows its power. At age 16, his daily duties were attending the school and serving his father. He had his duties of a nurse, which mainly consisted in dressing the wounds, giving his father medicines, and massaging his father's legs. He was very busy. Every night he massaged his father's legs, and he would retire only when his father asked him to do so. He would only go out for an evening walk either when his father permitted him or his father was feeling well. He loved to do this service with devotion on his father. At age 16, that was also a time when his wife was expecting a baby. She was a pregnant girl then. Shame on him because he was yet the school student then. Because of his carnal lust and passion on wife, he was going to be a father at that age. He was still a school student then. Because of his early marriage, he lost 1 year of his school education. As a student, his daily duty to study. As a son, his great duty of devotion to his parents. And again, then he was burdened by another duty, that he was going to be a father. At the same time, his father was getting worse every day. Doctors disapproved the surgical operation of his father's fistula because he was in such an advanced age. The operation was abandoned and various medicines were given by the doctors. He was getting weaker and weaker until at last he had to be asked to perform the necessary functions in bed. The dreadful night came. His father's brother, who was staying at Rajkot, was informed. These brothers were deeply attached to each other. Gandhi's uncle would sit near his father's bed all day. He would insist on sleeping by his bedside, sending all others to sleep. That was a fateful night in Gandhi's life. It was 10:30 or 11 in the night. When Gandhi was in his bedroom with his wife, that time when he was in his carnal pleasure with his wife, a servant knocked at the bedroom door. Father is no more. So all was over. Gandhi felt deeply ashamed and he was miserable. After that, some months passed. His wife gave birth to a baby. The poor baby born to his wife scarcely lived for more than 3 or 4 days and died. That was the experiences from Gandhi's life, early life. And some more experiences from his life we will see in next episode. Please cooperate and give time to time suggestions to improve myself better in presenting a topic and improve myself giving and narrating explanations. Thank you.